Hey everyone, it's Rob, and thanks for listening in today. I greatly appreciate your time as always. My guest today is Dr. Sabrina Starling. Dr. Starling, the business psychologist, is the best-selling author of How to Hire the Best series and the 4-week vacation, which we'll spend most of our time on today. She's also the founder of Tap the Potential and host of the Profit by Design podcast. She and her team are on a mission to support entrepreneurs in taking their lives back from their businesses. They are changing the story of entrepreneurship from one of long hours, grinding it out, to one of sustainably profitable business that supports and enhances life. They believe work supports life, not the other way around. Clients in Tap the Potential's Better Business, Better Life coaching program have more time for what matters most and more money in their bank account than they've ever had. Sabrina's How to Hire the Best series grew from her desire to solve the toughest hiring challenges, interfering with her clients' growth and profitability. What sprang from her experience working with entrepreneurs in rural areas catapulted her into becoming the world's leading expert in attracting top talent in business, no matter what hiring challenges those businesses are facing, and earned Tap the Potential's reputation as the go-to resources for entrepreneurs committed to creating great places to work with thriving coaching cultures and highly engaged team members working from their strengths. Now, during our chat, you'll learn how to understand what it really means to get away from business, be fully present with whatever you are doing and whoever you are with. Imagine that. And you'll learn how to overcome the discomfort of fully disconnecting. And how about this? Fully disconnecting for about 4 weeks. Okay, stay tuned. Here we go. Please enjoy my conversation with Dr. Sabrina Starling. Sabrina, welcome. I'm so happy to be chatting with you today. You are the best for joining me.
Thank you, Rob. I think we're going to have a delightful discussion, and I hope we have a pretty big impact from this.
Yeah, you are an impact maker, so I'm pretty confident about that. So I always like to start with a quote, and then I'd love your feedback on it. This is the one I found, and it goes like this: "Man surprised me most about humanity because he sacrifices his health in order to make money. Then he sacrifices money to recuperate his health. And then he is so anxious about the future that he does not enjoy the present. The result being that he does not live in the present or the future. He lives as if he's never going to die, and then he dies having never really lived." And this is a quote from His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. So what are your thoughts on that?
So I put that quote in the 4-week vacation book.
Yes, you did.
And I connected with it initially. Just that was my life at one point, early on as an entrepreneur, but even before I became an entrepreneur. And what is really disturbing to me is our society right now, particularly American culture. We're so fast-paced, so driven. The busyness, the hustle is prevalent across our culture, regardless of entrepreneurship or not, but entrepreneurship just magnifies it by 10 to 100 times. And we're not present in our lives. And I really have come to learn for myself, this is about the journey, not the destination. We need to be present with ourselves and connect with ourselves and our loved ones every single day. We cannot put off into some distant point in the future that we're building our businesses and we're doing it as an investment for our families for some time down the road when it's all going to pay off.
Mm-hmm.
It it's all about it being something that is valuable to us now in the present,
Yeah.
not some point in the future. And I know that there are ways that we can build our businesses, design our businesses so that they're sustainably profitable and they can run without our daily involvement. So we entrepreneurs and our teams have more time for what matters most. And it's not an either or. It really is both and. We can have successful businesses and a high quality of life. And I'm fascinated by what entrepreneurs who are thriving are doing differently than those who are burning out, because the majority are burning out. 9 out of 10 entrepreneurs, our research shows, are experiencing burnout. 1 out of 2 of us on any given day have neglected basic needs such as sleep, healthy eating, social interaction because of our businesses. That's not healthy. And I know there's a better way. And I'm just on a mission to share with the world that you can have a good quality of life and a successful business. And you have to be strategic about it.
What's going on? Why are so many entrepreneurs' minds wired to allow this to happen?
So we have a dominant discourse in our country. Hustle culture. And the traditional way of doing entrepreneurship is this expectation that if you want to get your business off the ground, you have to throw your whole self, your whole being into it. Go, be available for, and pursue every opportunity. And that's how most of us especially those of us who bootstrap our businesses, that's how we get to success. We chase sales and we say yes to the different opportunities for sales that come in. And we end up with these overweight businesses. And when I say overweight business, I mean, you have a business that you're serving a variety of different clients and customers who have a variety of needs. And that keeps the business owner in a position of, a lot depends on the business owner. The business owner becomes the bottleneck. And if we don't shift, so that mindset, that way of getting your business started serves you to a certain point. But once you reach your personal capacity of what you're able to do in a reasonable 40-hour work week, then you have to learn a new set of skills because the business has to grow beyond you. Many business owners never fully learn that new set of skills. So it's that classic case of what got you here will not get you there. And so learning how to get the business refined around a clearly defined sweet spot, identifying those clients and customers that are responsible for 80% of the revenue, and paying attention to that you also have 80% of your clients and customers that are responsible for 20% of the revenue. And this is something that's so overlooked in business, that 20%, 80% of our customers are responsible for 20% of our revenue. 80% are only responsible for 20% of our revenue. Just let that sink in. Usually that 80% are our most difficult clients and customers. They're the ones who are purchasing the smaller, the smaller revenue and smaller sales, and they're more demanding and more difficult. They take up most of our time. And so we believe we need to hire more team members to take care of them. And then we end up with a big payroll. Well, payroll is one of the biggest expenses in a business. And so now we're creating a problem that's just going to keep growing. And so this is why I say if an entrepreneur does not learn how to slim down the business around a tightly defined sweet spot, and that means identifying the top 20% that are responsible for 80% of the revenue and really focusing there, and recognizing that you are at choice to drop 80% of your clients and customers when you figure out how to add more value for your top clients and customers so that they'll happily pay you 25% more, because that replaces the revenue from the bottom 80%. And that is one of the biggest turning points where there's real potential for an entrepreneur to go from working 70, 80 hours a week down to a reasonable 40-hour week, to have the mental space at that point to learn the leadership skills and how to hire and how to delegate, how to put systems in place. This is where putting EOS in place often becomes very important, and that takes time. You have to train a team to do that. And if you are running all over the place, serving all kinds of clients and customers with a variety of needs, the business never has time for that. So what starts to happen is when the business gets slimmed down around this clearly defined sweet spot, the business owner starts to fall back in love with the business again. Prior to that, there's this love-hate relationship with the business where, yes, it's paying me well, got a lot of money coming in, but I hate my life. Oh my gosh, every single day is, just boom, 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 go through this and go through that and barely make it home. And, the family's upset because you're tired and distracted and missing out on kids' activities. And all of those things are happening when that business is overweight. And when the business starts to slim down around that tightly defined sweet spot, that's where the business owner starts to fall in love with the business again. But it also sets the business up to attract A players. So I'm walking you, as we're talking right now, I'm walking you through the different components of the Tap the Potential solution, because this is what I've been studying about what successful entrepreneurs do differently versus those who burn out. They're following these steps. So you get this tightly defined sweet spot of wonderful clients and customers to work with, makes it much easier to hire A players. A players don't want to come to work in your business and deal with your most difficult clients and customers. They want to come and work with the better ones. And when you're hiring A players and you have a clearly defined sweet spot, you're also able to have the mental space to innovate and add value. So you're able to charge appropriately for your services so that you have margin to stay profitable and to pay those A players market wages and salaries to be competitive and to attract them to your team. And that's where the business owner starts to get even more time freed up, because when you're hiring A players, you realize they know more than you do about the different things that they're doing in the business. And when you stay in the way, you're really limiting their potential. So it's your job at that point to have clearly defined results that they're responsible for and get out of the way and let them deliver those results.
One of the things that I notice in working with entrepreneurs is their identity really gets wrapped up in the business. So they're, run from the get-go. And then all this stuff that you kind of just described starts to happen.
Yes.
And then they have this life that they created. And the idea of actually creating this space, maybe even coming back to 40 hours, while it sounds like wonderful, it's kind of scary is what I notice for some entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
They like being needed. They like the dopamine hit of all the problems and all the things that they're dealing with. And it's easier for them to sort of, for lack of a better way of saying it, ignore maybe some of the problems or issues that may be going on in their personal life.
Yes.
Because they can always bring it back to the business. So what do you think about that? And how does an entrepreneur begin to shift and move in the direction that makes so much sense of what you're saying?
This is so characteristic. I mean, you described it so well, that there's problems in your personal life, and those are uncomfortable to look at. And at the end, while that's going on, so much of our identity is wrapped up in the business. When the business needs us, when our team needs us, when our clients and customers need us, we feel valued. And we really have to take our ego out of that and recognize that our true value as a leader is in helping others tap their potential. And as long as we stay in the middle of everything, we're hindering growth in others. And we have to be willing to walk through that valley of discomfort, because change is uncomfortable. And this is experiencing a new way of being. And I recommend doing it gradually. And so many people who work with us at Tap the Potential utilize small steps forward, taken in a consistent direction, lead to big change over time. So yes, I've written the 4-week vacation book. The 4-week vacation is a huge goal way out there for most entrepreneurs. When you're working 70 hours a week, you're not able to take any time away fully unplugged. You go to the beach, you take your laptop, you've got your cell phone, you're texting while your kids are swimming in the water. It's hard to envision 4 weeks fully unplugged. So this starts small. It starts with leave work at a set time every day. Create a commitment after work that makes you have to leave. My kids have activities. I go work out while they're doing their activities. I have to leave. I have to leave at 3:00 every day. There's no choice. And I can't go back because we're busy in the evening. There's family stuff happening. We have dinner and it's planned. And if I didn't show up at dinner in my family, I'd hear about it. So I've created a lot of natural accountability around me to keep me in check. 'Cause I love my work. I could easily just go. So start with something simple, leaving work at a set time, 5:00, 3:00, whatever, or 6:00 if that's what you need, but it's a set time, and turn your phone off. When you're done for the day, you're done. Be present with yourself, be present with your family. Don't turn your phone back on until 8:00 the next day when you start work again, or, if you go back at 9, whenever that is. And that's your small opportunity day to day to decompress. And that opportunity to decompress is so critical for us, because when we're in hustle and go, we're in fight or flight mode. Our brains are focused on survival. Our field of vision is constricted. Our mental field of vision is constricted. So we're missing opportunities. We're not doing our best strategic thinking. One of the best things you can do is to just get yourself out of fight or flight mode and get into a more relaxed state, fully unplugging, adding in meditation and other ways of de-stressing, and then going back fresh the next day. Another simple thing to do is just take weekends off. And just, I'm not going to work. Don't use Saturday or Sunday as the quiet time when no one's around to get in there and do all your work. Block that time on another day of the week. And those are more advanced. I'm not saying start there, but put the weekends that they're yours. And if you work both days of the weekend, say, okay, I'm going to take Saturdays off, or I'm taking Sundays off, and you start with one and then you gradually build up. And the other thing that you can do is look at the longest time you've been able to be away fully unplugged from your business. So if that's been half a day, go for a day and be fully unplugged. And then a week or two later, try to be away for 2 days fully unplugged, and pay attention to what systems you need to put in place in order for you to be able to do that. What falls through the cracks while you're gone? Put a system in place, figure out which team member can handle that system and run that system for you. And you'll start to add more systems in your business. One of the most interesting findings from our research on what's different between thriving, successful entrepreneurs and those who are burning out is that thriving, successful entrepreneurs have almost double the number of systems in place in their business.
Interesting. One of the things that I think about when you talk about this, especially, turning your phone off, maybe a half day was the time you could try a day, try 2 days. I read in your book, which, by the way, I want to hold up because it's such a great book, The 4-Week Vacation. Obviously, you can see it behind, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see it behind her as well, The 4-Week Vacation. But I read in your book about a woman, and I might butcher the story a little, but she took some time away and she started to notice how uncomfortable she was just being, So I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that. In other words, you talked a lot about having the systems in place so things are taken care of. So now you don't have to worry about that. Okay, good. Yeah. Now here you have this time, and you're not going to check your phone and check in or whatnot. And many entrepreneurs, in fact, I would say the vast majority that I work with, say, I'm uncomfortable and I don't like the feeling actually?
Yeah. So I totally get it. That's what I went through when I took my first 4-week vacation. And I knew the rules. I knew I wasn't supposed to interact with my team. I knew I wasn't supposed to be on social media. And I found myself on Facebook just scrolling like in this dead zone stare for hours, eating potato chips. Like, and I came back from that and I was like, that was so unfulfilling. And so we have to just recognize there is going to be a period of discomfort, and it could be a couple of weeks, it could be longer. And it's boredom. And it's okay. Mm-hmm. It is okay. And it's absolutely necessary that we go through it, that we get uncomfortable with that. I don't know what to do with myself feeling. I don't know what I enjoy. I don't know if I'm not at my business. I don't know what to do with myself. If we don't go through that period of boredom, we will never start exploring what else we might enjoy. Mm-hmm. If we continue to let our business take up that much space in our life, we will never have the opportunity to figure out what else might I enjoy. I love reading. I love knitting. I love gardening. I have a guitar that I bought during the pandemic. I want to learn to play it. These are all things that when I'm working, I don't get to do. And now I know I have these things, but it's taken me, I think I'm 4 years in now of doing long vacations to really reconnect with that part of myself, traveling with my husband. And, those are things that we don't even, if you don't take time to plan them and put them on the calendar, they don't happen. If we're busy, we don't have time to plan them. And so sometimes just having time off to be able to plan a vacation is necessary. Mm-hmm. And it's a period of discovery. It's similar to when we were adolescents and we were trying different things, and some things we liked, some things we didn't, and we just go through that again as adults because we are rediscovering who we are, what our identity is when I'm not Dr. Sabrina at Tap the Potential. Who am I? That's what I was discovering. Mm-hmm.
That's so good. So many things come to mind. The first one is there's a mentor and friend of mine named Jack Stack. You know Jack?
Yes, I know SRC, of him.
Yes. Yeah. And so he has a great book called The Great Game of Business, and in Springfield, Missouri, he's got a great company called SRC Holdings. And Jack always says, you gotta wanna. And he always says that to people. And, when we're talking about things like this, or it could be anything, but in our case, what we're talking about, that keeps popping in my mind. And I wonder, how as an entrepreneur, do we discover the wanna in this, to really be willing to make the commitment for change? And I'm just curious, in the work that you do, what do you notice? I imagine you notice pushback, even in some of the concepts and systems that you're presenting, where people might say, I don't want that, but I'll do this,
It's really about what is our greater thing that we want in life, what's most important to us. And so for entrepreneurs who have family, thinking about, well, how much time are you putting in on your other jobs? Right? If you're putting in 70 hours a week on your business, you have a job as a parent, you have a job as a spouse or a partner. How much time are you putting in those jobs? And do you have KPIs in those jobs? And how are you doing on those KPIs, by the way? Do you have a dashboard?
That's hilarious.
Yeah, but it is. And at the same time, like, we need to have some key performance indicators for us in these other areas that matter.
Yeah, it's so true. Imagine having a KPI at home. How am I doing as a spouse? How am I doing as a partner? How am I doing as a father? It's so good.
Our numbers would be in the red on some of those.
I know. That's such a good point.
So when we really hold what is the true impact, there's a book that I read as I was writing the 4-week vacation. It's Jim Shale's The Family Board Meeting, and I pull a section out of there and I quote him, but he talks about attending an AA meeting with a friend. And he was in the room, and everyone at this meeting was a child of an entrepreneur.
Wow.
And he made the
Wow.
point. He said, I know those parents did not intend to neglect their children to the point that they would turn to alcohol for love and acceptance,
Right.
but that's the outcome.
Mhm.
And so we are not, when we're parenting, we're not recognizing when we're working that much, how much we're missing with our kids. We may say, well, I go to their games. Well, are you present at their games? Or are you on your phone? Those kids notice. My daughter is on a swim team. She has practice every day, and it is tedious to sit there every single day.
Yeah.
But she's really happy when she looks up from the pool and she has eye contact with me.
Mhm. Yeah.
And that doesn't happen when I'm on my phone.
Mhm.
And so we have to really connect with what matters most to us. Is it our kids? Is it our marriage? Is it our health? And the other side of this, if that doesn't get your attention, well, let me say one more thing.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurs have we're almost our divorce rate is 5 to 10 times higher than the general population. We're 70% more likely to experience addiction than the general population, and our struggles with mental health are significant compared to the general population. And so we are suffering significantly in all of this. And I juxtapose that with that we're also responsible for 2/3 of net new job creation and 44% of US economic activity.
Mhm.
So when we're in this burnt out, overworked state where our mental health is suffering, we're more likely to get divorced, all these things are going on, and we're doing all these great things. What more are we capable of when we're thriving and we're
Mhm.
taking care of ourselves? Like, our businesses could be so much better, stronger, bigger, more team members, better places to work when we're thriving.
Yeah.
So if that's your jam, like if that is really important to you, latch onto that. And then there's also, if that doesn't get your attention, then there's also the consideration of, at some point, you're going to want to transition your business, sell it, new owner, something. If that business is totally dependent on you, there is no value in that business.
Mhm.
Every time you take a vacation, you are creating value in your business.
That's right. That's right. And I have to mention, you document in the book many of a lot of data around entrepreneurs and their struggle.
Yes.
You talk about mental health, which I think at this point, thank goodness we're talking about that more. I actually wanted to mention to you that there's a guy by the name of Justin Breen, and he had written an Inc. magazine article. And in that article, he shared about a tweet that he put out there and had received, hundreds and hundreds of likes and comments. And just to build on what you were saying, he said, that entrepreneurs he finds in his work with entrepreneurs that they have suffered or are suffering from one or all of the following issues: bankruptcy or potential bankruptcy. And you talk about this in your book in terms of getting your finances in order, heightened levels of anxiety, depression, traumatic experiences as a child or young adult. And then we added to the list addiction, and that could be to work or food or sleeping pills or substances like alcohol or whatever. And so I think that, what you're saying, this is serious stuff for us.
It is so serious. And yeah, we asked our clients at Tap the Potential before they started working with us, what were some of the most difficult experiences you've had as an entrepreneur? And we hear that. We hear bankruptcy. I've refinanced my house to cover payroll.
Yeah.
I have watched my wife and kids drive off to go to the beach while I stay home on my birthday.
Yeah.
Like, the family goes to celebrate the birthday and you're staying home. And, divorce, all of these things. And when we start out as entrepreneurs, bright-eyed, like we're going to create something and we're going to be free and we're going to be in charge of our time. If someone came along and said, well, wait a minute, these are the outcomes of where you're headed, most of us would think twice about going down that path. And no matter where we are on this path right now, we can stop it. We can
Yeah.
stop this path of destruction in
Yeah.
our lives, and we don't have to buy into hustle culture. Rob, I was at a conference speaking on work supports life. I shared all the statistics that we've just kind of gone through here. And I talked about you can take your life back. You don't have to work nonstop around the clock. And heads nodded. People were like, yeah. And I saw the excitement in people's eyes as I challenged them to take their lives back from their business. I walked off the stage. The next people up were a panel of entrepreneurs talking about startup. And they went right into, you're going to have to work 70, 80 hours a week.
Hustle.
It's just the way it is.
Mhm.
And I want to disrupt that. I want to put a stop to that, because it's so easy for us. Even after you listen to this podcast, you're thinking, yes, I'm taking my life back from my business. Today, I'm, drawing the line in the sand.
Yeah.
You're going to walk away and there's going to be some crisis in your business.
Oh, yeah.
And you're going to be right back at it. So we need continual reminders around us. We need to start surrounding ourselves with other entrepreneurs who value work supports life and not the other way around.
Yeah.
And be in conversations on a regular basis with individuals who believe that, so that we don't get sucked back into hustle culture.
Yeah. You talk about surrounding yourself with like-minded people. Why is that so powerful in community with other entrepreneurs who are thinking this way as well?
Because when we go into fight or flight mode, our reason goes out the door. So I've had clients in our groups at Tap the Potential who take weekends off, who take a 3-day vacation or a week-long vacation, and they come back and they're like, I am so refreshed. I can't believe it was so easy to do this. Why didn't I do this before? If I ever stop doing this, you guys remind me that I need to do this. And then 6 weeks later, we're telling them you're working really hard again. You need to take time off. And they're like, no, I can't. This is a crunch period. And I'm just going to get through this crunch period. And it takes a strong group of strong entrepreneurs, and many entrepreneurs are strong-willed. So that's not hard to find those, but who are strong-willed in believing your work supports your life and you need to get your act together. What you're doing right now is not sustainable. You're going right back down. So the people who are willing to have those honest conversations with you.
Yeah. Do you think, psychologically speaking, there are many other things at play inside because when you hear what we're talking about, I can't imagine it doesn't make some sense to the vast majority of people. But then I go back to that wanna part, the gotta wanna. And I'm really just fascinated. And you study this so deeply. And so, I just go back to what's going on deep inside for those that aren't willing to make that change or wanting to make that change for whatever reason, even though consciously it makes so much sense.
We are creatures of habit. So we're much more likely to do what's familiar to us, even if we know it could be better and different on the other side. It's like being someone in an abusive relationship. You know what's happening is not okay. And it doesn't feel good. It feels horrible. But making that change is so uncomfortable. And there's all kinds of cues around us in our environment that reinforce staying the same and doing the same actions and activities. And so we have to get very mindful of restructuring things and having people who hold us accountable for restructuring things in a positive way that support our life. And what I also find very interesting is that our businesses become more profitable when we do these things. So we build better cultures in our business when we embrace work supports life. When we have team members who see us taking care of ourselves, they will take care of themselves. When we expect them to have healthy limits around work and life, they will be more productive. They'll be more engaged. They'll be more loyal. Our turnover drops off, but people are bringing their best selves to work when they're not overworked. When you're overworking, your team is overworking, because that's the culture that you're creating. And to get out of that, if you're just going to stay in work, and you're not recognizing there's something different. I want to do something different. Usually the turning point for those individuals is a health crisis. It
Yes.
is, and we have people who contact us at Tap the Potential and they say, I am in my 50s. I don't have the energy for this anymore. I'm really concerned that I'm going to have a heart attack or a stroke or something is going to happen. And this house of cards is all going to crumble.
That's right. I always wonder why and it kind of goes back to the beginning with the quote.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we wait for this big event to happen in our life to wake us up?
Our society trains us to go from goal to goal to goal. And like somehow life is going to be magical. I thought when I got my PhD, somehow my life would be magically better. I got a little bit better paying job and I worked harder, but with that a little bit better paying job. And so we have all these milestones that we think that's the point when we hit 1 million in revenue, when we hit 5 million, when we hit 20 million in revenue, that's it. Things are going to be better. No, things get better now when we start now and we enjoy what we have. And I love reminding myself that the problems that I have right now are exactly what I wished for a year or two ago, because I wanted my business to be at this point a year, when I visioned out. So I have the good problems to have that come with what I visioned.
Yeah.
And the positive things that happen in our life stretch us and grow us. And there are opportunities to change. So every one of us, if you're bogged down in your business, you have an opportunity to change and to learn something about yourself in the process.
That's right. It's actually one of the gifts of entrepreneurship, I think. You really, it hits you at your core. And you can learn so much because we're willing to stretch ourselves. We're learners usually, and we have creativity. We're creative people. And creative can mean different things. You might be great at, setting up a business a certain way and being a great operator, or you might just be a big visionary and you're coming up with a new wonderful idea to, change the course of your industry or whatever. And it's so unique, and you could do that in your life.
Yes.
You can use those skills in your life and glean off that entrepreneurial skill set. I've read something I had to chuckle out loud when I was reading it because my kids, I have 2 kids, my wife and I have 2 kids. They're both in their 20s. They're out in the working world now. And my son mentioned to me this term that I'd never heard before. And he called it the scary Sundays. And then you wrote in your book about Sleepless Sundays.
Yes.
And so talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So this is a phenomenon. And a client of mine used that term. He said, I don't have sleepless Sundays anymore. And I thought, oh my gosh, he's absolutely right. I used to go to bed on Sunday night and just toss and turn and be stressed about whatever was going to happen on Monday. And, figuring it's all going to be on my shoulders. I have to figure this out. And so sleepless Sundays go away when you build a good team and you put systems in place and you have KPIs, and those team members are responsible for those KPIs. And so everything that used to be on you to sort out, number one, you have clarity. So you can see what you're dealing with. You can catch problems before they become huge and you can address them. And you have a team to support you in your thinking. And when you build a leadership team, you have thinking partners. It is no longer on you to sort everything out. And we pay the dumb tax a lot as entrepreneurs because we go off half-cocked and make a decision and we don't think through all the layers of impact from that decision. And I use my leadership team a lot. And sometimes I come away from those meetings and I think, oh, I would have done something totally different and it would have been not good. And what these guys are coming up with, such a stronger solution. And so learning how to partner and collaborate with others to make decisions and to slow down, quit making decisions in survival mode. It's not fight or flight. Most things that we have to decide in our business are not emergencies. I used to, as a psychologist, I used to be called out to go deal with people who were suicidal or homicidal. And so I would talk to my clients in the office. I said, there's a big C crisis. The big C. I don't know if you can see that on the screen. Let me get the big C. Yeah. And then there's the little C crisis. Most crises in entrepreneurship are little C crises. But we are in fight or flight mode, we turn them into the big C's. And,
you talk about having a good leadership team around you. And, I always wonder, for the entrepreneur, to ask yourself what it would be like if you were not the smartest person in the room.
Yes.
Can you handle that actually?
Yeah. And what is it like to go into the meeting believing you're not the smartest in the room, that everyone else is going to have a better idea than you? When I come from that perspective, I'm a lot quieter in the meetings.
Yeah, that's right. That is absolutely right. I don't know if this fits in, but you talk about cue storming.
Yes.
Talk about that.
Okay, so this is something that I accidentally stumbled upon early on in my life coach training. Dr. Marilee Adams has written a book called Change Your Questions, Change Your Life. And the premise of the book is that our non-conscious questions really drive our mood, our choices, and our behavior. And so let's say someone cuts you off in traffic, and the immediate non-conscious questions that run through our head are, what's wrong with you? Why are you so stupid? Blah, 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 all that. That gets us right in the judger pit. When we change our questions and we start asking learner questions, like what's possible? I wonder what's going on with them that they weren't paying attention when they cut me off in traffic. I wonder, what's going on in their life, extending grace to somebody essentially.
Right.
And in any situation, being curious. And so when we use these learner questions, it changes our mindset. I was just teaching a class yesterday, and I had people close their eyes, and I read them all the judger questions. And I said, tell me how you feel. And I heard anxious, depressed, really sad, constricted. And then I said, okay, now let's shift. I'm going to read you the learner questions of what's possible. What do I need? What does the other person need? What are they thinking and feeling? What am I thinking and feeling? How do we create a win-win situation? I read them those types of questions, and I said, how do you feel? And someone said, light, like hopeful, like there's possibilities here. And so our questions change our lives. And when we cue storm, we are inviting others around us to ask the powerful questions before we dive into problem solving. Because a lot of times we go right into, we have a problem as a team, we're going to solve it. And so when we stop and we cue storm and we ask the powerful questions around the situation, oftentimes we will find a solution that is completely different than what we would have come up with had we just dove in. And we will take into the questions open up our thinking. When we get into survival mode, we're very constricted in our thinking. And it's like we're in a little room and we see one little circle of light. And when you have the powerful questions, all of a sudden there's illumination throughout the room and you see things that you didn't see before.
How do you do this? I mean, let's just say there's a problem and you have 5 people in the room in there to solve it. How much, and you have an hour to do it. How much time do you spend cue storming? And then, or is cue storming really the beginning of what becomes the potential solve?
So I'm just going to talk from the perspective of a level 10 meeting and what typically happens if you incorporate cue storming. So usually we're talking about a problem. Usually it's me who's identified that there's a problem. And I will start talking about, I think we should do this. I think we should do that. And someone else on our team will say, well, I wonder this. And what about this possibility? And we had a client who requested a specific service from us that we offer to business owners, but not team members. And I said, I wonder, we were trying to figure out a solution to get him that service. And I paused and I said, I wonder what's behind this question. I wonder what it is that he really wants for his team members. And so I'm going to have a conversation with him and find out what he really wants before we went off and just said, okay, here's how we can structure it so you can have the service. Because we might have been missing the actual need that was there.
Yeah.
And so it's not a formal, we do formal cue storming in our retreats. And that's, I can walk you through the protocol, but when we're talking about real life business, like what goes on really in a meeting from week to week, it is team members learning to ask powerful questions. Usually it takes one to just kind of pause everybody with a powerful question. Then it kind of triggers the rest of us. Oh yeah, we should be asking better questions here before we dive into problem solving.
Mm-hmm. So I wanted to ask you, you talk about the sabbatical, but then you use a different term, which I like better personally, which is soulbatical.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that?
The soulbatical is really about nourishing our souls and being intentional that we're taking this time to take care of ourselves and to reconnect with ourselves. So it's going into it with a clear intention. It's not just, hey, I'm going to take 4 weeks off, or I'm going to take 3 months off. It's, I'm doing this to nourish myself and to put some structures in place during that soulbatical to do that. So meditation retreats, Rob, are, that's something that you might want to incorporate in a soulbatical. And just imagine being able to go on a meditation retreat for a week and not go straight back into work afterwards. Like, how many people leave your retreats and go right back into the day-to-day? What if it's part of their soulbatical where they've had a week off before they come in, so they're already decompressed before they come in? Mm-hmm. And then they go through the retreat, and then they have a week or 2 weeks off before they return. Whatever is going to happen in those 2 weeks before you go back to work is going to be profound. Mm-hmm. Because you have completely, in a meditation mindfulness retreat, you have detoxed your brain. Mm-hmm. It's wide open for new possibilities.
Mm-hmm. So, and you go through this in the book. So I encourage listeners to get the book and kind of go through it in more thoroughly. But, I'm thinking about, as the entrepreneur, going to my leadership team and saying, I'm going on a soulbatical. Good luck with everything.
Yeah.
I'm making light of it, but you take us through a process really of how you could get there. It's not like,
you don't just, you don't just say, I'm going to be gone 4 weeks. Good luck, guys. It is really with the 4-week vacation, you make a commitment to yourself. I'm going to do a 4-week vacation in 12 to 18 months. And so any business that has steady lead generation and, ongoing sales can do this. Okay. But if you're in a startup place and you don't have sales coming in regularly, you're not ready for a 4-week vacation. You've got a little longer, but I'm talking to the business owners that have steady sales going on in their business. You can do this in 12 to 18 months. And you set the intention. I recommend that you have natural accountability. So tell somebody who's going to go on vacation with you, your wife, your husband, your children, because they're going to hold you accountable to that. Make a reservation somewhere. And, and a lot of times we hear, well, my wife can't get off for 4 weeks. So what am I going to do? Well, go for however long she can get off, and then find something else to do with yourself for the other week or two. And it'll be okay.
Right.
And then once you have that in place, then you start building up to it. So you start with, what's the longest you've been able to be away from the business fully unplugged? Extend that. If it's a week, schedule a 2-week vacation. Work towards that. Look at what is going to fall through the cracks while you're gone. Hire the team, put the systems in place to manage that, and keep building towards it. So then you go on a 3-week vacation fully unplugged. When you create the intention and get it on your calendar that you're taking that 4-week vacation, you tell your team, and you put the imaginary duct tape over your mouth, and you watch their reactions in the room. You will be blown away. They're not going to react the way you're anticipating.
Yeah.
They're going to be surprised. They're going to be excited. They're going to be excited because that means they get to step up and show you what they're capable of. Like, finally, Dr. Sabrina is going to leave, and we can show her, we can do things around
That's
here.
Yeah.
And they also are excited because there will be systems put in place for all the stuff that's in your head that creates their chaos.
Yeah.
What's in your head creates their chaos. So you're going to put systems in place. You're forced now to do it. And they're excited about that because they know their lives are going to get better.
How about reentry, and how do you handle the potential stress and anxiety that your team may begin to feel, knowing that you've been gone for 3-4 weeks and you're about to be back and everything's been fine, but there's going to
Yes.
be new energy back in the room, and it's
Right.
going to be big time energy.
Yes, because you've had 4 weeks to think
That's
and
right.
strategize and
That's right.
watch out. So I recommend a gradual reentry.
Uh-huh.
And you do not want to take back responsibility from anybody that you have delegated to. That is the biggest no-no.
So good.
And because you're undermining them, you're telling them, I don't really think you're competent. I know you handled this for 4 weeks, but I don't think you can do it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So don't do that. And that means you have to figure out what your new role in the business is going to be. Mm-hmm. And I don't come in like the tornado, the Tasmanian devil, and like, you know, you have to be in that uncomfortable place. Like, what am I going to do now? Because things are going along without me. And it's your opportunity to figure out what's your favorite part in this business. What part is most fun for you? What part really plays to your strengths? Mm-hmm. And do that, or don't do that. Because you really are at choice at that point. You can continue to go back in the business. And if that is enjoyable to you to be doing that work, do it. If there are other things that are starting to catch your attention, you have freedom to go pursue those other things.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I speak from experience on this one. You know, I realized over a period of time that it was so freeing to see smarter people than I who actually could run the business better than me. Yeah. And then at some point I realized I'm probably best just getting out of the way if this asset that I own is going to really have the most value.
Yes.
So yes. I got out of the way, and I have a CEO who runs the company, and I just support him, and I stay out of the way. So it can totally be done. I just wanted to ask you one last question. Do you have time for it?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. You talk about $10,000 an hour activities. And I was wondering if you could help us frame that. And there's a great chart in the book when you all buy it. And you'll see kind of a breakdown of the different types of, per hour work that one does. So talk a little bit about that.
So this chart is designed to help us be aware of all the ways that we spend our time in the business that are not significantly valuable or adding value to the business. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of entrepreneurs will say, well, I can do it and it's less expensive than me hiring someone. No, it's not. Because the opportunity cost that is huge when you're checking your email the first thing in the day, when that's your best thinking and you're checking email. Are you kidding me? That is a $10 an hour task. You could be strategizing and coming up with a new initiative to serve your top clients better. You could be calling that top client that says, hey, I want this for my team. And how, and asking that question of, well, tell me what's underneath that. That's $10,000 an hour time.
Yeah.
Because when you're creating systems, when you're solving problems for your best clients and customers, when you're bringing in, high level deals, that's $10,000 an hour time. Most entrepreneurs are so busy in the day to day, they don't get to that. So the chart just puts it right in front of you. We have people who print off this chart and laminate it and stick it.
There you go, right
their
there.
Laptops. Yeah, there. Look at that. I love that, Rob. So I want to give. If we have a few minutes, I would love to share the story of how I stumbled on this for myself.
Please, yeah.
Because when I was in startup phase 17 years ago, I had a baby and a brand new business. Mm-hmm. And I had left my job and gone into business because I wanted work-life balance. I wanted to work no more than 25 hours a week. And I read The E-Myth by Michael Gerber.
Yeah.
And I remember reading that and seeing myself and saying, I'm doing this all wrong. I mean, right from the get-go, I knew I was doing it all wrong. Mm. And so I had to get really clear with myself on how I was going to do this. Limits force creativity and innovation. Mm. And so I decided I have 5 hours a day when my daughter is at daycare. I have to figure out what I'm going to do with those 5 hours. And I remember having a moment in the laundry room when I had sent her to the babysitter and I was laundering her puke-filled baby clothes and bedding so that she could come home that afternoon and have a clean bed. And I just broke down because I'm like, I need to be working in my business, not doing the laundry and all that stuff. And I had this breakdown, but after a breakdown comes clarity. And I had this epiphany after that of, okay, if I can only get one thing done today, what is the one thing that I can do that'll move this business forward? And at that point, it was, we'll go write that blog post. And I wrote a blog post. And those blog posts eventually became parts of my books that I have out now. But it's not necessarily that $10,000 an hour is going to show up in the business because you do that activity that moment.
Right.
But you're adding value. You're creating an asset when you're engaging in the $10,000 an hour activities. And so the whole idea is, be clear on where your greatest value is in the business. Ask yourself every single day, if I can only get one thing done today, what's the most important thing I can do that's going to move this business forward and create more value? Do that, and that'll get you out of the busyness. And if you really want to challenge, think about, well, if I'm Dr. Sabrina and I only have 5 hours a day to run my business, what am I going to do? All of a sudden, you only have 5 hours a day. You cannot fritter your time away in email. It's just not possible.
That's right. So good. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I want to share. There's a free download of the chart.
Please. Yep.
You can go to tapthepotential.com/10K and get the downloadable chart and some training that I've done around
Amazing. It's also a great assessment that you have. So check that out. We'll put that in the show notes as well. So it'll be easy for everybody. So, but what does the assessment do?
So this is our Better Business, Better Life assessment. It is the only assessment that looks at your well-being in relation to the health of the business.
Yeah.
And my hypothesis is, and our research is showing this is to be true, is that the healthier our businesses are, the more systems we have in place, the healthier we are as entrepreneurs. And so you get immediate feedback on your risk of burnout, the number of symptoms that you're experiencing, and you also get feedback on which systems you need to put in place in your business that will lead to you having a more profitable business and a better quality of life. So you can take our assessment at tapthepotential.com/assessment, and there's no charge for this. And it's an incredible experience.
Yes. Again, we'll put that all in the show notes. And Dr. Sabrina, thank you so much. I am so grateful to you for joining me today. It's an amazing conversation.
Thank you, Rob. I believe that we are making an impact in entrepreneurs' lives with this conversation. So thank you for that opportunity.
Yes, it was my pleasure. To all the loyal listeners, I always greatly appreciate your time. I know how valuable it is, and I wish you all much love and gratitude.